darling one, and welcome to my channel. I am so excited that you are here today because today we are going to make a pair of bloomers together and I'm so excited about it. First of all, before we begin, I wanted to tell you where I got the pattern because I'm going to be using a pattern today. I tried just winging it on my own because I sew stuff, but you know what? Apparently that doesn't translate well to actual clothing that you wear. So I bought a pattern, and the pattern, I purchased it on Etsy. It was a digital pattern from Sewing Man Patterns. Basically, it's something that you download and then you just print off all the pages and then you kind of like lay them all out together and tape them and cut them. Anyways, I'll show you what I mean in a moment. But I already cut the pattern so that we don't have to do that, and I pinned everything. I made a mock-up already because I wanted to make sure that I was sewing the right size for me. What I discovered upon sewing the pattern with the mock-up was that they weren't quite as long as I wanted them to be. There is a certain length to the pattern, like the longest length is the length that I used, but I want it to be a little bit longer, so I extended it by 1.5 inches. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is one of the pieces. So you can see that I printed out all of the pages and then I taped them together. Do you see the tape? And then I cut out the pattern and then I extended it 1.5 inches for this project. So this one I've already cut to the size of the pattern, and then I will cut the other one on camera. But I also wanted to point out that what I'm using today is actually some thrifted bed sheets that I found. Some bed sheets are like super light and fluffy or whatever, but these are a little more, these have a little more drape to them, a little more weight to them. I am really excited because I can use this for so many projects. It was a king size and it had the flat sheet, the fitted sheet, and also the pillowcases. So what a find. Anywho, and after we make these beautiful bloomers, I'm gonna go ahead and style it. So we're gonna have a little bit of a fashion show with some things from my closet just to see like what looks good with bloomers, and like, because not everything looks good with everything else, you know what I mean? And so I'm gonna put together some outfits that I think will look really good with the bloomers. So with that, let's just jump right in. Okay, a little bit of an inconsistency here. I had a wig stand in the back. Not that this is a wig, right? Anyways, I had a wig stand in the back and I forgot to remove it before I started filming, and I'm just gonna keep the first take that I just took, so oh well. I just moved it now. Anyways, I wanted to show you some things before we start cutting one of the pieces, okay? So this right here shows, let's see here. Yeah, this right here is kind of like a little mini diagram of what the pattern looks like once you lay it out. And then it comes with like waist measurements, and then this is kind of like how you do it. Like it has like numbers on it, like letters and numbers, and that's how you know which ones to lay out. Like it has it right on the printed pages, like the letters and the numbers. And regarding what size I am, I shan't tell you. It's a secret. Hey there. Welcome to my cutting station. So I took one of the king-sized one of the king-sized pillowcases and laid out my pattern on it, and I pinned it. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this bad boy out, okay? Okay, I already have the bad news bears. So I left my good scissors at my mom's place. So I gotta use these scissors. It's not a good idea to cut things with the same scissors that you cut everything else in the world with. But I have no choice at this point. So I'm gonna use these. If you're doing this at home, if you've decided you wanna make some bloomers of your own and you go to Sewing Man patterns, and I will say, after making my mock-up, it's a really great pattern. It's really easy to follow. But anyways, I digress. If you're doing this at home, be sure to use the same scissors that you only always ever use on fabric. Don't do what I'm doing. But what can you do? All right, well, here we go. Cutting out the pattern. Here we go. Something else I wanted to mention. Ridiculous, I know it. Anyway, something else I forgot to mention is that, like, I could just, like, do you see what I did over here? I didn't cut it all the way across because I might use this strip for something else, like, later on down the line. So I'm just cutting immediately around the pattern, okay? Because I like to save lots of scraps, especially if it's black fabric, because I can always, I'm out of breath, always use black scraps. Oh. I almost forgot, I extended it 1.5 inches. I almost cut it right across. Whew. Good save, good save. Ta-da! All right, almost done, almost done. Do-do-do-do! We are winning at life. This is done. By the by, my neighbor is doing yard work, so you're constantly throughout the day gonna hear like revving and chainsaws and whatever else, because they do this every freaking time I decide I'm going to film in the spring, summer, or fall. So anyways, let's take a look at what we have here. All right, so I've got hooked. All right, I've got my butt piece, I got my front piece. So I'm going to, and I had folded them over so there are actually 2 layers of fabric for each piece. All right, so now I'm gonna lay them out and show you how to align them, and then we're gonna pin them and we're gonna just start sewing, okay? I hope you can see can you see my head? Hope so. All right, here we go. Hey there. So I'm gonna try to show this to you as best I can. My camera stand is a little funky in that it doesn't tighten, so I can't put it like directly above and then angle it because it's going to just fall straight, fall straight down. And basically you'll be looking at the camera stand instead of what I'm doing. So I'm afraid we're gonna have to do this kind of weird angle, and I apologize. But let's look. So we have, I put my big pieces on the bottom, okay? Like my butt pieces are on the bottom. And I put the front pieces on the top, okay? And I did this on both sides because you wanna make sure that they line up. I know this sounds confusing the way that I'm explaining it because, as you know, I'm terrible at explaining things, but let me see if I can. So basically I want mirror images, okay? I want mirror images of each other because when you fold it inside out, you want them to line up with each other. And if you have like, if I do this exactly the same way on both sides, like facing the same way, they're not gonna line up, they're not gonna line up correctly. All right, so like this, do you see how I have it laid out like this, where they're, both of the curves kind of go this way? Is this making sense? Where they're both facing the same way, don't do that, okay? Lay them out so that they look like mirror images of each other. So, butt piece and top piece, okay? And they are mirroring each other, okay? So when you lay them out, they kind of look like pants, okay? The other thing I wanted to mention is make sure that you have them all facing the right way towards each other. So, like for instance, and I'll show you how to determine this, because when I made my mock-up, I did not do this, and I did a lot of seam ripping. Okay, so when you lay them out, there are curves. There are curves. You want the curves to be on top of each other, okay? So like in the end, what's gonna happen is this piece and this piece need to line up with each other. Do you see? And it curves. I'm so sorry. I'm really trying here. All right, so you know what? Let's just get into it. And hopefully after you're following along, you'll see what I'm talking about. I don't know. Well, hello there. So my battery just died, as per usual. So I went ahead and got a new battery. So we are going to go ahead and pin along the edges, and then we are going to sew the edges. Okay, but right now, all we're doing is we are just pinning along the long edge, not the short one. Oh, not the short one over here. Oh my gosh, this is really hard to show you. This is a short edge, okay? We're not doing that one. We're doing the long one right now, okay? So I'm gonna pin that, and then we'll reconvene over at the sewing machine, okay? All right, bye! Ahoy! We are at my sewing machine, and I have pinned the long sides as promised. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and stitch along the edge. I'm gonna come in 1/4 inch around the edge and just on the edge that I pinned, okay, the long edge. We're not gonna go crazy and do everything else just yet, because there are other steps that need to happen before we do those other steps. Did I just say that right? Let's go. All right, so now that I have my straight stitch across, I'm going to go ahead and reinforce that with a zigzag stitch, just so that it keeps it from fraying, because I really want these to last, because I think they're going to be really comfortable. I mean, let's face it, I'll be wearing like bed sheets. You can't get more comfortable than that. All right, zigzag. And for the zigzag, I'm just going right along the edge, okay? Like I'm not like overlapping the straight stitch. Huzzah! So just so you don't have to sit here and watch me sew at my sewing machine all day, I'm gonna go ahead and just do the same exact thing to the other side that I had just done to the side that I just showed you. I am so bad at explaining stuff. I'm so sorry. But I think you know what I mean. Okay, here we go. Okay, So now that I have sewn along my long side and zigzag stitched, we are ready to open these up. There we go. We're gonna open it up. Now, mind you, when you're making bloomers, they're gonna look like clown pants until you like shape them up. You know what I mean? Like with elastic or whatever, until you cinch them up, they're gonna look like clown pants. So no judging. All right. Anyways, so I'm opening these up, okay? And what I'm gonna do is, this is the top, okay? This, do you see how there are curves on the sides? That's gonna be where like your crotch goes, all right? So what we're gonna do is we're going to the bottom part. So not the top, we're going to the bottom, down here. And we are going to sew on some lace, okay? Now, black lace is hard to come by these days. No More Fabric store that, do you hear that? Do you see what I'm saying? We have a guest appearance from Chainsaw over here. Anywho, these days it's hard to find some of the materials that I'm looking for, so I thrifted this kind of like lace top, and it's got leaves. Can you see them? Maybe you can't, or maybe you can. Anyways, it's got this kind of cool leaf pattern, and I thought we could use this on the bottom for the trim. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut, I think I want it to be 3 to 4 inches in terms of the trim. So I'm just gonna go ahead and like trim about a few inches in, going down from, up from the bottom of the top. Up from the bottom of the top, I'm so sorry. Does this even make sense to you? All right, so I'm laying out my top nice and flat, or as flat as I can get it. You'll see that the top of the shirt is up there, okay? And we're gonna work from the bottom of the shirt. I'm not too concerned about, how perfect it is or whatever, because I kind of want it to be maybe a little bit messy down on the bottom, because that's just my way. So, I'm not gonna bother with like a ruler and like do things by the book. We're just gonna cut it. Here we go. I'm starting from the seam. There's like a seam on the side, so we'll do that. Ta-da! All right, so now I'm gonna cut another one just like it. But the other one, we wanna make sure that it's roughly the same size, because otherwise the pants are gonna be like, one will be longer than the other. One leg will be longer than the other, so let's go ahead and just, try our best to make them match up, okay? All right. I've got 2 safety pins. I've got a piece of masking tape and black 1/4 inch elastic, and I'm using black because they're black pants. And anyways, so I'm going to take a safety pin and I'm gonna fold this over, okay, the elastic, and I'm going to stick the safety pin through there. Just like that. Okay, so now we've got that. And I'm going to take masking tape and I'm going to put it over the safety pin. Why, you may be asking? I'm doing this so that if the safety pin happens to come loose while I'm threading it through, it doesn't stick into the fabric or stick into my finger. Okay, so that's what I like to do with that. The other thing that we're gonna do is we need to measure out how much we're gonna need, okay? So if I've got my pants here, I don't want them, I want it to sort of blouse at the bottom, so the elastic needs to be smaller than this, okay? But we need to know how small. And so in order to do that, I'm going to wrap the elastic around my calf really, really loose, because I kind of want, I don't even want it to like touch my leg essentially. I want it to be like super duper loose, but I want it to blouse. So let me show you real quick what I'm talking about, if I can. Okay, please ignore my dry, hairy legs. I'm part werewolf, my dad's side. All right, so I'm taking this elastic and I'm just, so this is right around my calf. Ugh. And I want to take it to the widest part of my calf, and then I'm gonna make it real loose. So I probably shouldn't have pinned it first, but oh well. All right, so I'm going to cut it right there. Do you see how like loose that is? That's great. Snip. Okay, so now before I continue on, I'm gonna go ahead and cut another piece of elastic to the same length that I cut the first one. All right, so that we've got two matching pieces. And remember, I pinned it first. Whoops, don't do that, I guess. Anyways, just where I folded it, I'm just gonna make sure that I fold it and then cut it so that it's the exact same size, okay? All right, see you soon. Hi there. So, I have something to admit. I effed up. I did something wrong. I filmed this whole section of the video, like I spent like 2 hours. And then I realized I did something wrong. So, rather than including the wrong part in the video, because I don't want to confuse anybody, I'm just going to go ahead and start here as if I didn't F it up. Okay, so anyways, let's take, so our next part that we're gonna do, because I had to undo all this stuff, though I didn't completely. So this curved part, this is the crotch, okay? Here's the thing. It goes like this. With the shorter part on top, you'll see I have lace up here, and that's because it was part of a mistake. So just ignore that. We're not even looking at that. So if you, let me pull it back. Do you see how there's a longer, let me pull it from the top, from here. Okay, do you see how it's wider on top than it is on the bottom? So I was mistaken. I thought the other side was the bottom. And I attached the lace and the elastic and everything that's gonna go on the bottom at the top. So it was like around the waist. And then when I went to stitch it together, I realized my mistake. So the lace part is actually going to be attached to the longer section, okay? Because then when you fold it in, that's the, I mean, it seems like these should be the bottoms, but they're not. They're gonna go, because this little scoop here is for your crotch. So, anywho, let's go ahead and do this better this time. Okay, so I'm going to take my lace and I'm going to sew it like, okay, you want the right side seam, okay? We're gonna sew the lace against that. Okay, so we're gonna put it along the outside, because when you flip it, when you flip it, you're not gonna have raw edges on the outside. Okay, so so we're gonna sew it. Let's just go over to the sewing machine and I'll show you. Okay, and also I'm gonna come down 1/2 inch, and my battery just died again. Anyways, let's get back to what I was talking about. So this is, we're gonna sew this on 1/2 inch down, so that like we're gonna sew a 1/2 inch along the edge, okay? Because we're gonna create a sleeve for the 1/4 inch elastic to fit into. If we only come down 1/4 inch, that's not gonna be enough room for the 1/4 inch elastic to fit through, okay? So let's go over to the machine and I will show you what I'm talking about. So here we are at the sewing machine again. I'm just gonna turn this bad boy on. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I've matched up my edges, the lace with the bottom part of the pants, okay? And I'm just going to stitch a 1/2 inch in. Let me put it up here. I'm going to stitch a 1/2 inch along the edge, okay? And then after I stitch that on, I'm going to come through with the zigzag to reinforce it and prevent raw edges from fraying, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and do that. And I'm not pinning this because, well, you're just sewing like along the edge essentially, so it's not too complicated. I mean, you can pin it if you want. And I'm going to go ahead and turn a light on because it's getting a little dark. In like the lighting that you see, the natural lighting, I feel like is fine, but when I'm trying to do things, I can't really see that well. So. All right, and I'm just going to go ahead and trim this extra lace off the side, okay? All right, so now when we fold it out, like when we open it up, you'll see that there is a nice crisp edge and all the seams are lined up as they should be. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a zigzag stitch along the 1/2 inch edge that we just made, okay? And that's going to like hold it in place a little better. Here we go. And I'm taking that zigzag right up to the edge, like right on the very edge. Hey there. So now what we want to do is we want to create sort of a little sleeve to run the elastic through, okay? So what we're going to do is, do you see how it's, you know, this is kind of the perfect side? We want to turn to the imperfect side, okay? And then what we want to do is we want to take this piece, all right, this is our 1/2 inch piece, and we want to fold it over, okay? We want to fold it over, let's see, I hope you can see this. All right, let me get up there. All right, we want to take the piece, the half inch, and fold it over so that the lace is down here, but the 1/2 inch piece is folded like sort of on top of the cotton piece, okay? Because that way, when we fold it over and we sew along, it's going to keep it hidden. Do you follow? If we were to take this, piece and fold it along the lace, you would see it, right? And we don't want to do that. So we're going to fold it upwards, okay, towards the pants. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch right along the edge of that with a straight stitch, so that it's going to create kind of a little sleeve that we can stick our elastic through, okay? So let me go ahead and stitch that down, and then I'll show you how to do the elastic. And remember that zigzag stitch that we did right along the edge of this, just to keep it from fraying? That's where I'm going to sew it down, okay? Because all of that is going to really hold it together really well. A professional would probably iron this down, but not Corpsey Lou. All right, so now we've created our little sleeve, and I will show you how to thread that through. All right, so I'm going to stick my masking taped safety pin in between, like into our little hole. Now that I've got this inside that little, like kind of like tunnel, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take the other end and our other safety pin, and we're gonna pin it. Now don't twist it though, okay? We don't want it to twist. So we're gonna go ahead and pin it onto the fabric. And this will prevent it from, like, when you start pulling it through, it'll prevent it from getting pulled all the way through and then you can't find the end. Okay, anyways, so I'm just gonna take this and start cinching it through, I don't know if you can see or not, through that little tunnel. I'll turn it this way. I think you can see it better that way. And this may be a little snug. Ooh. Maybe smaller safety pins are in order next time. And this is why I put masking tape on the safety pin. Because otherwise I have no doubt it would be opening. Okay, so I have pulled it through, and this is how it looks. Nice and bloused. So now what I'm gonna do is I need to sew the inside seam, okay? So let me take you over to my table so I can show you better what I'm doing. Okay. You see how we have the bloused fabric. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch at the edges. Okay, I'm going to stitch right there, and then I'm going to stitch at the seam, okay? And then I'm also going to stitch at the other end, all right? And that will prevent the fabric from, or the elastic from like twisting, like when you wash. Hi. Like when you wash it in the washing machine. Then I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you what I'm gonna do next, okay, after that, because guys, I filmed so much already and I can't even use it, so I'm a little tired. So, I'll just show you real quick. Once I stitch the elastic in, okay, so like on the edges and then at that one inseam, I'm going to take these short pieces and line them up. And remember, make sure that it's inside out, okay? So everything is inside out. So like this seam, you see, it's on the out, it's inside, okay? This is the inside seam. So we're gonna take the short pieces and stitch them together, okay? So like where this is the bottom, so this is the leg right here. And then this with the curve, that is your crotch. Okay, so I'm gonna do all of that and then I'll show you the final pieces. Or maybe I'll take it back to the sewing machine. Let's go back to the sewing machine. All right, fingers crossed I do this right this time. What a nightmare that was. Oh, you have no idea. All right, so here's our little end. Okay, and I'm just gonna stitch that in there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my pretty pants, pant leg, and I'm just gonna kind of do this. I'm just gonna keep like stretching it and like unstretching it, and that should kind of like even out the blousing, okay? And then once that's done, I can go ahead and stitch where that the pant leg seam is. I can stitch right there on the elastic just to prevent it from twisting. All right, so now I'm going to make sure that it's inside out. We are going to make our little pant leg. We're gonna wanna pin it this time, okay? So we wanna go right up to the little crotch area, okay? And pin all the way down to the lace. And that's gonna make a cute little bloused pant leg, okay? So let's give that a whirl. Let's go ahead and just pin that along. We're all pinned up and we're ready to sew along that edge. And we're sewing 1/4 of an inch in with a straight stitch. Okay, now that we've done that, I'm gonna go right along and do a zigzag stitch just to prevent the frays as we've done before. And I like to try to snip these little threads as I go, just because otherwise at the end of the project you're gonna have a gazillion threads to snip. And it sometimes just saves time just to do it as you go. All right, so we have our little pant leg. Isn't that precious? All right, and we'll just leave it as is for now. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one, and then we'll continue on from there. All right, so it looks like I'm actually running out of daylight. I'd hoped to be able to accomplish all of this today. But because I lost a couple of hours due to my ridiculous mistake, I don't think we're gonna be able to finish this today. But I think we can do a couple more steps. We've got our little pant legs, and they're inside out, okay? So we're gonna turn one right side out. Okay, I'm turning one of them so that it's the correct side out. All right, there it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck it inside the inside out one, okay? So the right side out one goes inside it. All right, so I just did that. I just put it inside. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the crotch seam, the edges. We're going to pin all along the edges that we haven't sewn yet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you what that looks like after it's been pinned, okay? You know what, I just wanted to show you real quick what I'm doing, okay? So I'm just, like, I've got the seams together, and I'm pinning along the curve. And you just want to make sure that all the pieces are just lining up. I'm really not sure if this is helpful or not. Let me show you how it looks. This is kind of the inside seam, okay? Which I've pinned along, and I've pinned along it, okay? I'm not pinning the top. The top doesn't need to be pinned because we're going to be turning it inside out. So we're just pinning along that curve, okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and stitch it up. I'm going to do a straight stitch and then come along with a zigzag stitch. Okay, so now it's time for our moment of truth. I stitched the legs together, right? So obviously the pins aren't there anymore because it's all done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it all right side out. So basically we just need to flip everything. And voila! You see? They're going to be nice and huge, which is great. So we will continue on with this another day, and we'll do the waistband next, and then we'll do our little fashion show. All right, see you soon. Top of the morning to ya. New day, same problems. My neighbor is still out there doing yard work. It's an overcast day, it's supposed to rain, and they're still out there doing yard work. Little hair of the dog here. Just kidding. It's just caffeine. All right, anyways, enough about all of that. Let's get to it. So today we are going to add a waistband to these bad boys, and hopefully hopefully pretty soon I can start wearing them around. I guess let's just get right into it. So the other day, the problem that happened is I attached the lace to the wrong part of the pants. Like, I actually attached it to the waistband, which obviously is incorrect. So now that that's been corrected, we'll go ahead and do the elastic waistband. So what I'm gonna do is, get down here. I'm gonna measure two inches down from the top of the edge of the pants, okay? I'm gonna measure 2 inches down, then I'm gonna mark it with some chalk. I'm gonna use 3/4 inch black elastic to go inside of the pants. 2 inches sounds a little extreme, but what's gonna happen is we're gonna be folding it on the 2-inch seam, or on the 2 inches, and then I want a little bit of a gather at the top. It just makes it look kind of cute with a little bit of a ruffle. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll just kind of show you what I'm doing, okay? All right, here we go. So I have my ruler, and I've got a bit of tailor's chalk, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and just mark 2 inches down from the seam with my tailor's chalk, all right? Do you see what I did there? And I'm just gonna kind of do that all the way around because I'm gonna join the lines, okay? So I'm gonna eventually like do this, okay, where I join, let me put this back here, where I join the marks that I make, okay? And I'm marking on the outside of the pants. So let me just show you real quick. The line that I'm doing, it's a little bit sloppy, but it's roughly 2 inches, so I'm not really worried about it. So I'm just gonna turn this around so you can see. Okay, so as you can see, it's not like a perfect line, it's roughly 2 inches all the way around, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is where I made my mark on the pants, I'm gonna go ahead and iron that down so that there's a seam that goes along that white chalk line, okay? The other thing that I'm gonna do is, I guess this was kind of a happy accident that I put the lace on the top by accident, because now I have a 1/2 inch of lace around, so that's a great guideline, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold it on the seam, right, where the chalk line is, and then I'm gonna fold it where the lace is. Okay, so you see what I'm doing? And then I've got 3/4 inch elastic that's gonna go inside there, which leaves like about 3/8 of an inch at the top that we can scrunch up to make a little bit of a ruffle, which will be super cute. So I'm gonna go iron this real quick, and then I will meet you back at the sewing machine. Now that I have ironed along that white chalk, you know what? Every time I say white chalk or I use white chalk, I think of that beautiful song by PJ Harvey called White Chalk. Have you ever heard of it? If not, look it up right now and watch the video. It's haunting. You'll love it. Anyways, I digress. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sew from the top. I'm gonna sew about 3/8 inches down from my fold, okay? And that will create this sort of ruffle along the top. So let's go ahead and do that. Hooray! I found the back seam of my pants, okay? So like the very back seam. And I am going to take my lace mistake from the other day, and I'm gonna fold that under, all right, because that's about 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to, let's see if I can get this up there. I'm going to pin about 1/2 inch on either side of that seam, okay? And that's gonna be kind of my stopping point when I'm stitching, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna feed the elastic waistband through there, okay? So let's go ahead and pin that, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so I pinned like 1/2 inch from the seam, okay? So that's my stopping point, because that's where we're gonna feed the elastic through. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew along the bottom, like right on the edge, right on the very edge of my fold here where my lace mistake was, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll start on the elastic. So the next part we're gonna do is the elastic, okay? And the way that I do the elastic is, I'm not very technical about it. The pattern, I believe, comes with the measurements. So like if you're this size waist, cut the elastic to this size. But I don't trust other people to tell me what's comfortable on my own waist. Like, I don't want to be out to lunch with my ghoul friends and I'm like eating and I'm thinking, oh geez, this elastic is really tight. I don't want that to happen to me, and I don't want it to happen to you either. So yeah, I don't use a tape measure. I just will wrap it around my waist like this. See if you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to sit down. And I know that this isn't like, I don't have a chair behind me. I'm doing a little squatting. So I'm just gonna like sit down, and then I'm gonna tighten the elastic to where I'm still comfortable when I'm sitting, okay? And then I'm gonna stand up and just make sure that feels like it's not gonna fall down. And then there you go, there you have it, okay? And then once I figure out that measurement, I'm going to make sure that I add enough to overlap an inch. Okay, so I want to overlap an inch because I'm going to stitch that down, and that's going to hold it in place once I have my measurements. All right, so let's go ahead and do that, and then we will reconvene at the sewing machine. So now that I have my elastic cut, I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did when I threaded the elastic through with where the lace is at the bottom of the pants. I'm going to do that at the top. But this time, the sleeve is, remember where we had that little opening, that little gap in the top of our pants? We're gonna thread that through. Okay, so we're sticking it in that hole. And then we're gonna thread it through. And again, I pinned the other end so that it doesn't like accidentally get tugged through, okay? Because we don't want that to happen. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and thread this all the way through and just make sure that it doesn't twist, okay? And then we will reconvene once that is all put together, okay? I have threaded my elastic through, just as before, only this time I now have, remember there was that gap, okay? I am now going to take my pieces and I'm going to stitch around an inch here, okay? I'm going to use a straight stitch going down, but then this way I'm going to use a zigzag stitch. All right, now I've sewn my elastic. Let's see if I can get it up there where you can see it, okay? And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tuck it inside, but you know what, before I sew it closed, okay, before I sew the bottom closed, I'm gonna go ahead and just like pin it to where the seam is, because I'm gonna try these on and just make sure that they're comfortable, because if it's too loose, I can tighten it. If it's too small, maybe just so, you know, give myself another ½ inch leeway or something. But hopefully everything checks out. All right, so I used a safety pin just to pin it in place. And then I'm gonna do this because I want to make sure that the kind of gathering is equal all the way around. All right, I've tried them on and they are super duper comfortable. So I'm gonna go ahead and right there, that's where our gap is. I'm gonna go ahead and stitch that along the edge there. Okay, I'm gonna take the safety pin off, obviously. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sew a line down each of the seams with my sewing machine, okay, down each of the seams. And that will prevent the elastic from twisting in the future, like when I run it through the wash or whatever. Okay, so let's get to it, and then they'll be done, and I can show them off. Okay, here we go. All right, so now that our beautiful bloomers are complete, I thought we could do a little bit of a fashion show, and I can show you how you can style bloomers if you decide to make some of your own. And again, I do highly recommend Sewing Man Patterns, the bloomers from Sewing Man Patterns. It's a really great pattern, super easy. It's honestly, it's the first pattern I've ever used. I know that may sound crazy because I make dolls, but it's like the first purchase, like actual garment pattern that I've ever made. So if I can do it, you can do it. And as you saw, I messed up, and that's okay. It wasn't unfixable. So anyways, I'm gonna go throw these on and just show you how I'm gonna style it. So before I style these bloomers for you, I wanted to share with you some of my fashion inspiration. These are actually characters from shows or movies that I love their style, and I actually, in my everyday clothing, it's what I wear. So let me just show you. The first inspirational fashion icon for me is Aunt Wendy from the TV show Witches of East End. It was a Lifetime network TV show, and it only ran for like 2 seasons, but I loved it. It was a really cozy witch show, and Aunt Wendy is maybe one of my favorite characters of all time. Anyways, so these are some of her fashions that you can see. She wears a lot of like kimonos. She's not afraid of color, though she always does have some kind of black in her outfit usually. And then also, I love this like Victorian shot right here. That was my favorite episode. I think it was in season 1, episode 3, where they kind of like, there's a flashback and they go back in time to like a Victorian era, and that's an amazing episode. And my next fashion icon is Misty Day from American Horror Story. And she is a swamp witch, and so she wears like a lot of like neutral colors, but she has a very like, she loves Stevie Nicks, and so she wears a lot of like Stevie Nicks inspired outfits, but it's also still her own kind of like spin on it, her sort of like swamp witch New Orleans spin, and I love that. So I'm gonna try to incorporate some of that into styling these bloomers. And then also, of course, Stevie Nicks. Of course, Stevie Nicks. My final inspiration, and this movie gets a lot of shade thrown at it, but I tell you, I loved it. I thought it was so much fun, and that is the Rob Zombie version of The Munsters. I'm not normally a Rob Zombie fan. In fact, there's not a single movie that I like outside of this one that he's done. But I love this film because I do think the acting was very on point. I do. Cassandra Peterson's in it. I loved the fashion in this film. The fashion, the colors, the lighting. It was just a fun movie all around. But anyways, so my fashion inspiration icon from this film obviously is Lily Munster. And in fact, you'll notice I'm wearing this bat pin. This is a bat pin that I made, and the inspiration was actually from that movie. Lily Munster's character was wearing this sort of like needle felted bat, like in front of like one of her nightgowns or whatever, and it was just amazing. And I thought, I need to make one of those. I need to make a bat. And so that's how this was born. And here, let me get it up close so you can get a good look at it. I'm thinking maybe sometime down the road, I'll actually do a tutorial for one of these. It took forever to make. I mean, I won't lie, this takes a lot of time to make, but I'll show you how to do it at some point. Anyways, so those are my fashion icons that are my inspiration for today for styling these bloomers. So let's see what I can put together. All right, for the first look, I'm going with sort of like a Victorian undergarment look. I found this crop top at like a thrift store, and I added some lace to it to make it look more like a Victorian camisole. And I think it looks really great with these bloomers. And I have to tell you, these bloomers are so comfortable. They're so great. All right, so let's see how this outfit looks with a kimono added to it. I feel like you really can't go wrong with a kimono and bloomers. I feel like they just go together so well. All right, let's see how it looks. All right, here we are with the kimono. What do you think? Okay, so for my next look, I consider it my Lily Munster look, or at least one of them. For this one, I'm wearing like a purple lingerie piece that I found at my friend's store, the Hereafter. And it was a teddy, and I thought, well, I can just like cut the crotch off and then stitch it up into a top. So that's what this is. And then I added my little bat pin, just like she has in the film. And then I've got this black lace kimono on. And then I also paired this outfit with striped socks and combat boots. All right, so let's have a look. For this next look, I'm just wearing my favorite Toxic Tunes t-shirt and this kind of like loose-fitting cardigan. And I went ahead and I left on my black and white striped socks and combat boots for this look. So let's see how it looks. Super simple t-shirt and cardigan. I'm a little awkward at this. I'm not really good at striking poses, so I apologize for the awkwardness of it all. Also, I don't have a microphone, except for what's on the camera, so I can't do like a voiceover. But I don't know, I like it. It's simple, it's easy, it's comfortable, and I think it looks good. All right, so for this next look, I'm wearing my favorite Elvira t-shirt, which is nice and loose. I got it in an oversized size so that it would fit loose. And I had cut it at the sleeve and around the neck. But then underneath it, I'm wearing a couple of like shirt extenders. So we've got like layers of lace. And then again, I'm wearing those black and white striped socks with the combat boots because I'm lazy. But also it looks all right with the outfit. So anyways, this is the outfit. So I love the kind of different silhouette, how it kind of balloons out, and then, you know, all of the ruffles, but then you can still see the bloomers underneath. So we've got like layers and layers of lace. I really love that look to it. All right, for this final look, I've got all kinds of crazy going on. I'm wearing this sort of rust-colored camisole. I've belted it with kind of a neutral colored belt. It's beaded, it's a beaded belt. And then I added some layering necklaces and this floral neutral colored kimono. And I'm also wearing these amazing sort of like floral Victorian style boots, which kind of clashes with the kimono, but I don't care. I think it looks good. So let's have a look. Just me being awkward again. There they are, my beautiful boots. All right, here we are at the end of our video. Thank you so much for coming along on this crafting journey with me. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I wonder if any of you out there have now been inspired to make your own bloomers. I mean, I know you can buy them, but where's the fun in that? And also, I mean, if you can make them exactly how you want them, why not? Give it a whirl. So anyways, I have a super fun video planned for our next episode, and I hope you'll stick around for that. But until next time, have a perfectly magical day, everyone. Bye for now.